The day I realized I no longer belonged in my own office, the air smelled like lemon polish and quiet decisions had already been made. I stood in the hallway with my coffee cooling in my hand, staring at a door that used to recognize me. The nameplate was still there, my name, spelled the same way my father taught me to write it when I was 6, but the lock had changed. Shiny.
New.
Unapologetic. I remember thinking how strange it was that something so small could feel like a door closing inside my chest. I didn't knock at first. I just stood there, listening. The low hum of the copier down the hall. The soft murmur of voices inside. Papers shifting. A laugh that didn't belong to me. That was the moment. Not the argument. Not the emails. Not the weeks of polite confusion. That quiet pause in the hallway was when I knew something had gone wrong, and that I'd waited too long to name it. Before all of that, my life had been orderly in a way I'd worked hard to earn. I came into the office every morning just before 8, keys jingling, lights flicking on one by one. The smell of fresh paper and old carpet always met me at the door. This was the firm I'd helped build from the ground up, 3 cramped rooms above a bakery at first, then this space with glass walls and a proper reception desk. My parents liked to tell people it was a family business, and I suppose it was. My mother handled bookkeeping in the early years. My father lent his name and reputation when mine was still untested. But I was the one who stayed late. I was the one who missed dinners, learned contracts line by line, sat across from clients twice my age, and held my ground. I was proud of that, not in a loud way, but in the quiet way you carry something heavy and precious without dropping it. At home, I tried to keep the same steadiness. My husband, Daniel, used to tease me for alphabetizing the spice rack. You manage chaos all day, he'd say, and then you come home and tame cumin. We had 2 kids then, both still small enough to leave fingerprints on every glass surface. Life felt full, stretched but honest. My parents were always close.
Too close, some might say.
Sunday dinners were sacred. Advice came freely, whether I asked for it or not. And I accepted most of it because it came wrapped in concern, in history, in love that didn't always know when to step back. That was the first boundary I never learned to draw. The shift didn't announce itself. It crept in wearing the familiar face of help. It started with small things. My mother began stopping by the office more often, bringing lunch, reorganizing files to make things easier. My father sat in on meetings he hadn't attended in years, clearing his throat before offering opinions that subtly redirected decisions I'd already made. Just a suggestion, he'd say, palms open, voice calm. I told myself it was temporary, that they were proud. That family support was a blessing, not a warning. Then there were the emails. Clients copied to threads I hadn't started. Calendar invites moved without my input. A meeting room reserved under my name that I hadn't booked. Each thing alone felt harmless. Together, they formed a pattern I kept explaining away. At night, Daniel noticed the change before I did. You seem tired in a different way, he said once, watching me rinse dishes that were already clean. I'm fine, I answered, too quickly. Just busy. But busy had a new taste to it, metallic, unsettled. I began to feel like a guest in rooms I once owned. Conversations paused when I entered. Decisions were already underway. The first time I asked about it, my mother smiled the way she always did when she thought I was being sensitive. You know how your father is, she said, touching my arm. He just wants to make sure things don't slip. I nodded. I always nodded. That's what daughters like me do when we don't want to seem ungrateful. The real doubt arrived quietly one Tuesday afternoon. I'd returned from a client lunch to find my desk drawers rearranged. My notebooks, color-coded, carefully stacked, were gone. In their place sat a neat pile of printed reports I hadn't requested. My chair felt different when I sat down, slightly lower, as if someone else had adjusted it to their comfort. I remember the sound my pen made when I dropped it. A soft click. Final, somehow. I walked to the reception desk, trying to keep my voice light. Did someone move my things? The receptionist hesitated. Just a second too long. Oh, she said. Your mother asked me to shift some items. She said you were aware. I smiled because that's what professionals do when they're surprised in public. Later that evening, I called my parents. We sat around their kitchen table, the same one where I'd done homework and learned to apologize before I understood what I was apologizing for. I need to understand what's happening at the office, I said, keeping my tone even. Things are changing without my knowledge. My father leaned back, folding his hands over his stomach. We're just streamlining, he said. You've got a lot on your plate. This way, everyone's strengths are used. And my office? I asked softly. My responsibilities? My mother reached for my hand. Her palm was warm, familiar. You're still essential, she said. This isn't about pushing you out. But something in her eyes flickered. Uncertainty, maybe. Or resolve. I went home that night with a tightness in my chest I couldn't name. I lay awake listening to Daniel breathe, staring at the ceiling fan as it spun its slow circles. I told myself it would pass. That family meant flexibility. That boundaries could wait. I didn't know then that waiting was its own decision. By the end of that week, the lock on my office door had changed. I stood there in the hallway, coffee cold, listening to my life being discussed without me on the other side of the door. And for the first time, I wondered what it would take to step back into a room that no longer expected me to enter.